Harriet Tubman, a conductor on the Underground Railroad, once said that she could have freed more slaves if they knew they were slaves. The sadness of this remark is profound. Most people simply don't know that the system they have grown up under is a system of slavery, cleverly disguised as choice. The simple fact of the matter is that most people will not prepare themselves or their families because they do not know they are slaves. Call it propaganda or call it normalcy bias, the result would be the same. The Mack truck of a currency crash is barreling towards us, and most people are standing in the middle of the roadway, blinded, dazed, and confused by its headlights. And you, most esteemed listener, has a choice. Either step lively out of harm's way or be a stain on the economic pavement. Some will choose to step lively, and the rest of this thesis is for you. So what's next? There isn't much better in life than to be with people of high moral value that you can stand in agreement with. If you already have people in your life like this, then count yourself as blessed. If you don't have folks in your life like this, then get busy finding them. Whichever position you find yourself in, we all need to get busy expanding our circles with such people. Standing in agreement with people of morals is a necessity because they will not compromise on doing what's right for themselves and for the group. Selfishness gives way to selflessness, and everyone wins. When times are hard, you need people like this in your corner. Preparation is the key to successfully navigating dangerous times and aligning yourself with others who think in this way will prove prosperous. There are well over a dozen scriptures about preparation, with Proverbs 22:3 being one of my favorites. It's unfortunate that so many people overlook this very important aspect of our spiritual and physical well-being. And so it's even more important to seek out those who do not neglect this aspect of life. To me, the granddaddy of them all is found in James chapter 2. Faith without works is dead. Coach Bobby Knight was interviewed by the television program 60 Minutes shortly after he led his 1976 Indiana Hoosiers team to an NCAA national championship in basketball. And he was asked, what was the key to their success? He could have said many things, but he settled on this. He said, the will to succeed is important, but I'll tell you what's more important. It's the will to prepare. The earth was formed before Adam and Eve, and so was gold and silver. Since the antiquities, gold and silver has always been seen as valuable and was a thing of beauty. All these years later, it is still true, and what's more, of all the currencies that have come into existence, every single one, over 6,000 in total, have failed without exception, and through it all, gold and silver have remained and still does to this day. Because we have had the wool intentionally pulled over our eyes since the powers that be, including the power of the prince of the air, orchestrated fiat currencies backed by only promises, we have been deceived into thinking that gold and silver are investments instead of money. Fiat currencies lead to predatory lending practices and higher prices through the expansion of the money supply, which, by the way, is the true definition of inflation. Time has proven over and over again that sound money, God's money, replaces man's poor and inferior substitutes after each inevitable crash, and those who have it end up rebuilding crumbling societies and receive manifold blessings for their faithfulness. In the 1920s, during the Weimar regime in Germany, the fiat currency had been printed out of thin air and thus printed into oblivion, creating a hyperinflation. During this time, well-positioned citizens, meaning those with gold and silver, were blessed with the ability to acquire things that they needed and wanted. In fact, during that particular time, just a few ounces of gold could have bought an entire city block with the buildings and everything inside the buildings, lock, stock, and barrel. Now, I don't want to gloss over the fact that many people were hurting during this time because the pain and the suffering was real. Just take a moment to study what the German people endured during this setup to World War II. It was horrendous for sure, but that just firms up my point. Many people were caught unprepared. Would this be you? And remember, possession is 9/10 of the law. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Forget about holding gold and silver in ETFs and IRAs or any other speculative device. If you think they will send you your medal when the economic world is melting down, you are sorely mistaken. It won't happen. Hold it for yourself. Quick disclaimer here. I am not giving financial advice. My position is that gold and silver are money, not investments. Now that you're thinking more along the lines of finding those selfless souls of high morals and claiming for yourself what God has put in place for us to use as a means of exchanging goods and services, we come to the point to where we need to protect ourselves, our families, and the like-minded. Hard economic times drive people to do things they would otherwise have never thought of. Sadly, that puts us in a position where self-defense becomes an important concern. Frankly, it's a concern right now in our current time. Lawlessness is rampant, and I'm afraid our porous borders will only add to the misery, especially in the cities. Our mantra should become the 3 G's: God, gold, and good. I'm not going to say the last word because I'll get banned. So much for free speech. So let's just call it self-defense units. Also included in the mantra would be silver, but the 3 G's flow so much better. Back to the self-defense units. With so many desperate, demented, and depraved people wandering around hungry and disillusioned, it stands to reason there may be trouble, and only the fool stumbles forward without preparing for it.
Proverbs again?
Yep. It is not unreasonable to believe the police will be busy with a high call volume, and you just might have to fend for yourselves. Once again, this is where a community of like-minded folks is imperative. If you watch my back, I'll watch yours. Now, wouldn't that be nice? It's important to not only get your self-defense units in hand, but seeking proper guidance and training is just as important. I've been doing this long enough to know that there will be at least one sarcastic, non-planner, non-preparer who will say something like this: "You can't eat gold." And they would be right and wrong. There are medicinal products out there that contain silver and more than a few culinary treats that incorporate shaved gold that is edible into food art. So there, you can eat gold and silver. But I do get that from a caloric standpoint, neither would do you much good, unless you use your gold and silver to buy food, which would be obvious to most anyone who wasn't trying to be rude and condescending. With that said, another component to any prep work should include a few months' supply of food, even if all you have is rice and beans, and you should also have a way to purify water. There are many products on the market that can fill these requirements, and I would encourage you to research for yourselves what's best for you and your crew. However, feel free to message me if you would like any specific recommendations. Let's hang in there. God goes before us. Family on trial.